Since 2016, the US retail chain Target has had a number of board game exclusives, titles available nowhere else in the market because Target makes contracts with the publishers of games to have them available on their shelves and nowhere else for a limited period of time. And because Target's customer base consists largely of a huge mainstream audience that plays games but is not hardcore gamer, a lot of those titles are based on some sort of IP that will be familiar to people, whether it's for a television show or a movie or something else. And the funny thing is, there's one studio, Forest Prison Creative, that has designed a lot of those games, even though they have actually been published by many different companies. So Forest Prison Creative is a design studio in the Seattle area, and they work with a lot of different licenses and have come out with a lot of games that have had a good success. They've been fine designs in an unexpected location because in the past, licensed games have not always been successful. That is still the case with some of the Target titles, but Villainous won Game of the Year and the Toy of the Year awards. It's had fairly big success, had an expansion come out, possibly there'll be more in the future, and that was Forest Prison Creative working with Wonder Forge, which is part of the Ravensburger design group. And you had the Monster Crunch game based on the cereal characters, with which I had no nostalgia whatsoever, but it's actually a fine hand-shedding game. It's unexpected. So in 2019, Jaws. Again, from Forest Prison Creative, under the pseudonym Prospero Hall, partnership with Ravensburger, with which the two together released the Jurassic Park Adventure survival game in 2018. Now they're back with a different movie series, an older franchise, the one that kicked off the blockbuster mentality in 1975, and we've been riding that wave ever since. So, in Jaws, one player gets to be the shark, coming up from below to eat as many people as possible, then ideally to kill everybody who will try to stop the shark on the boat. It's a 2-act game, and you can play each act separately, but you'll probably want to put them together to get more of the movie experience. Here are the components in Act 1 of Jaws, which takes place on Amity Island, with one player taking the shark board that will allow them to track how many people they eat. That's primarily what the shark cares about, just eating as many people as possible. And they have 4 special powers to help them do that. Jaws is a 2 to 4 player game, but while one player takes the shark, the other 1 to 3 people will control these 3 human characters. And you must use all 3 characters no matter how many players are in the game, because you need the combination of these powers in order to have any chance of stopping the shark. The humans are trying to shoot 2 barrels into the shark, and if they do that, they move on to Act 2. If the shark eats 9 swimmers, you move on to Act 2. So it's a race to see which one of those is going to happen. With the shark getting more abilities, the more people it eats. I guess it fuels those special abilities inside the shark. And of course, the crew has less time to get their gear because they're continually making excuses for why there are so many swimmers getting eaten. So, to begin the game, the player with the shark has the shark tracker pad, and on this pad, the shark player is going to write down their starting location. There are 4 beaches, north, south, east, west. There are 8 numbered spaces, so that gives you 12 possible places to go. So the shark will write down one of those spots, not showing anyone where they're going. And then we begin. In each round, you flip over an Amity event card, and that will show first where swimmers show up, because people are kind of clueless. Possibly the word hasn't gotten out yet that the shark's all around, and you see where you put the swimmers. So in this case, we got 1 on North Beach, 2 on South Beach, 2 on East, and 1 on the West Beach. So there's often an event that happens here. Hooper takes 1 more action this round if he wants. And there's all sorts of combination of swimmers, good and bad for both the shark and the humans. There's 1 of each here. The same here. Oh, Michael Brody goes out swimming. He counts as 2 swimmers because it's so traumatic if he gets eaten for Chief Brody. So there's lots of possibilities for where the swimmers are going to show up. Once that happens, the shark now takes its turn, with it having 3 actions available to it. And the actions consist of move 1 space, eat 1 swimmer. That's it. It's a very simple shark. Not much else it's interested in. Movement takes place only from adjacent spaces. So if the shark began in North Beach, it can go to 1, it can go to 5, it can go to 6, but it can't cross diagonally over to 2. So you have these big spaces here that cover lots of ground, let you move around quickly, or of course the spaces you want to get into so that you can have a treat. So the shark player is going to write down where they ended up moving and what they did. So let's say I did this and say this. And once I do my movement, I tell two things. I say whether I used a special power, but these powers all start face down. And the humans don't get to see what power I use if I use one. I would just say I used a power. And I set it aside and I don't tell anyone what that is, but I mark it on my sheet so I record when I used it. And I also say whether any swimmers disappeared. One disappeared in West Beach. So I move my tracker up 1. And now the chase is on for the humans. Each human gets 4 actions, and they have some information on which to go. They know that I ate 1 swimmer in West Beach, but did I start in 4 and go 1, 2, and then eat? Did I start in West Beach, eat, and then move 2 away? Was I on 5 so I could possibly go to either beach and eat someone? And eat 1, and then where did I go? 5, 4, 3, 7? Did I just stay here? Where am I? They don't know. But they have some tools that they can use to try to protect the swimmers and to find and hunt the shark. So each of the characters can move, and they each move 1 space in an adjacent manner, just like the shark, except for Hooper, who can move 2 spaces because he's in a speedboat instead of this big shark hunter. And let's say Brody goes here, he goes 1 space. You can rescue a swimmer. If you're in the same space as a swimmer, you yell at them to get out of the water, so now the shark can't eat them. Brody, if a beach is closed, if a beach is empty, he can put a beach closed sign on it, and the next time swimmers would go there, they instead don't go there, and you just flip this over, and then they'll stay away for 1 more time, and then the beach will open again. So you can try to make sure that the beaches stay dinner free, and you can concentrate your efforts on the other locations the shark might be going to. Brody can also use binoculars while he's on the beach. You can use them once around, and he says, "Shark, are you in the North Beach?" And the shark, if he's there, would say, "Yes, I'm here." And if not, he says nothing. It's a kind of a stupid shark that he'd answer that. Brody can also head to the shop, and he can pick up a barrel, because Quint starts with 2 barrels. He has a limited supply. You want to get some more, and you want to be sure you're shooting them, because there's advantages to shooting lots of barrels. Least of all, of course, is trying to hit the shark. So if Brody is in the shop, he can pick up a barrel for 1 action. He can move it to a dock, and he could drop it off for 1 action. Okay, it took like 8 actions for Brody, but you get the idea for what's possible with him. With Hooper, you can pick up a barrel. That's 1 action. You can use the fish finder. The fish finder goes in whatever location you are in, and if the shark is in that location, trying to remember where I went. So let's say Hooper moves over to West Beach first since he was eating there. We'll use the fish finder here. If the shark is in this location, then the shark would pop up and say, "Yep, here I am." If the shark is in one of the adjacent locations, 3, 7, or 5, they'd say, "I'm nearby." And if neither of those is true, then they just say, "Nope, you don't find me." So in this case, the shark is nearby. Hooper has done his job. We got some indication of where the shark is. Okay, Hooper can take up to 4 actions. So that was 1 to move here, 2 to use this, 3 to go over here. We'll rescue a swimmer. Get it out of the water. Okay. Quint can pick up barrels at docks. He can move to adjacent locations. So that's moving once. That's moving twice. He can also launch a barrel. He is the only character who can do that. He's the old shark hunter, and he can launch into his location or an adjacent location. So from 3 adjacent locations, 4, 7, west, and 1. We know the shark is in 3 or 7 or 1. 3 or 7 or 5 from the fish finder information, but we don't know which one. And so it's just luck of the draw. where are we going to shoot? Where do we think the shark is going next? You might think it's going to be here, so it can go either location. So we say we launch a barrel into 7. And if the shark is in 7, it says, you got me. And you put a barrel over on top of the shark. If not, the barrel stays floating in the water, and there's an advantage to that. In this case, it's a miss. Nothing happens. Quint can go here and pick up the barrel, or just leave it in the water and maybe come over here with Hooper, and we'll pick up the barrel from Hooper on a subsequent turn. You have another event. You put out more swimmers. If the shark hasn't eaten enough for some of the events, you put out more swimmers because, of course, there hasn't been panic yet at the beach. And so we're going to drop a lot more swimmers out there. The shark will then move again. If the shark moves through where a barrel is located, or starts the turn there, or ends the turn there, or in any way interacts with this space, it has to say at the end of its movement not only whether it ate swimmers or not, and whether it used a special power, but also whether it passed through this space. So the humans start putting things together. If they put more barrels around the board, you're going to get some clues as to when and where the shark moves. But of course, it's a very slow process to get those barrels, because Brody has to go to the shop and pick it up and bring it to a dock, and then someone has to pick it up, whether Hooper or Quint, in order to shoot it again. So you're often tempted to pick them up, which then means you'll get less information about the shark. You could always just make a wall, make sure the shark would have to pass through here, and you know it'll happen whenever that shark does that. There's different ways to play and different advantages to what you're trying to do, with the whole goal, of course, being to shoot those barrels into the shark as quickly as possible. The shark's powers, of course, trip things up and make it a little more difficult for you to figure out what's going on. There are one's Feeding Frenzy, where you get to eat all the swimmers on a beach for one action. There is an Out of Sight, which means whenever Brody and Hooper use the binoculars and fish finder, the shark is not seen. It's a very smart shark. He knows not to answer. Evasive Moves means the shark does not trigger the barrels. So you can pass there once. And Speed Burst, the shark can move up to 3 spaces on one action. Like Scotland Yard and Letters from Whitechapel, Jaws is a hidden movement game, a game in which one character takes movements on the board and the other players find out where that player is only intermittently, only based on some actions. You reach a certain checkpoint, you do some sort of action, other players see where you are, and then they're trying to hunt you down. So the special tokens really give the shark an edge because they throw in a lot of bluffing possibilities beyond you simply saying, well, did they eat the people at the beginning of their movement or at the end? Where are they? Because you get to throw in the options of, well, if there were 2 swimmers eaten, did they use the special token, did they use Feeding Frenzy to eat them in one go and then they have 2 other actions? Did they use Speed Burst to spend 2 actions eating and then 1 moving up to 3 away? Did they use the evasive maneuvers so that now they will just stay there? They use Out of Sight, so they just pretended to move, pretended to do something that would allow them to move quickly, and instead they are just right there, not moving at all. In Act 2 of Jaws, the action moves out to the open water, with the 3 human characters in the orca facing off against the shark, and if Quint, Hooper, and Brody can do 18 damage to the shark dies and they win. The shark has 2 goals which sort of work together. If the shark deals 6 damage to each of the human characters, then the humans all die and the shark wins. Or if the shark destroys the boat, then of course the humans will just be swimming in the water. Easy prey. So the shark has 2 competing goals, but they're kind of the same goal in the end: destroy the boat, provide no safe spaces for the humans to go. Each round proceeds as follows. You have a resurfaced deck, which has the 8 locations of the ship twice in the deck. So you reveal 3 of the cards in the A, B, and C slot. You mark them, just so everyone is clear. The shark is either going to surface in A, B, or C. There's different reasons for doing that. The evade value, the number on the fin, shows how much damage the shark can take without actually being wounded. So if the shark goes to the A location, then a human player needs to do 3 wounds or 3 hits on the dice in order to do even 1 point of damage. So the evade value is less here, but the shark will roll more dice, which is going to give them a greater opportunity to damage the boat. There is a little fish hook here, and that lets the shark shake off any attachments that are on it, with those attachments often damaging or causing some sort of inhibition on the shark that doesn't let it attack as well as normal. So there's an incentive to go here. There's lots of dice available. The evade value is not great, but lots of dice rolling. Here, there's different choices. So the shark is trying to make smart choices where it thinks it won't be attacked by the human. So you lay out the resurface options. You identify those targets. The shark player is going to choose A, B, or C, possibly playing a shark ability card as well. Each card ability is used only once. You put that down, you put the other 2 on the side. And now the humans get ready. The crew prepares. So each human player can move up to 2 spaces, and as in Act 1, movement is all adjacent, not diagonal. But the boat is not that large. Humans can move where they wish. So each human is going to move to a place and then target. So maybe Hooper will go over here and target this space. So you target a water space where the shark is going to appear, and you must be adjacent to that space. So if Brody goes over here, Brody can target this water space in particular. But if Brody is in this part of the boat, then this is not adjacent, because again, this would be a diagonal connection from boat to water. So you decide, do you want to team up? Do you want, maybe Quint comes over here and will target here with his machete. You take the weapon that you're targeting. Right here, the pistol, the machete. Hooper's going in with the hammer. We all get ready. We're ready to swing our weapons. And then the shark reveals where it is. For the people who did not target that space, typically, they can't do anything. They chose poorly. The pistol, you can re-aim to an adjacent water space, but these water spaces are not adjacent. So Brody and Quint do nothing. Hooper, though, is taking the hammer to the shark. He rolls only 1 die, but the hammer's ability is that you ignore the evade value completely. So once the shark reveals that he's going to be, you look over here. If the shark damages or destroys a boat space, all crew fall into the water. That's not good. But Hooper's got a hammer. The evade value is 0 when you use the hammer. 1 damage. So 1/18 of the way there. Oh, so sad. Now the shark attacks. The shark can attack someone who is in the water on that space where they are located, or they can attack a boat that is adjacent to their current space. In this case, there's no one in the water. The shark rolls 2 dice. If it does 1 damage to this boat piece, then this piece will be damaged. If it does 3 damage, then this boat section will be removed completely. So shark rolls 3. Oh, this is gone. If it had been only damaged, you flip over the tile, and now you've got a little segment of the boat here. But anytime a boat section is damaged while someone is on it, they fall into the water, and the shark gets to roll 1 die to just take a chomp at them. Oh, in this case, shark missed. This presents a little interesting change of action, because now this boat space is adjacent to this water. So on a future turn, if the shark would possibly show up here, then this player from this location can target either A or B with a melee weapon or an attachment, such as the flare or the fishing net. With a ranged weapon, you can go anywhere you want. The shark, on the other hand, if it shows up at B, it can attack either this boat space because it's adjacent, or this one because it's adjacent to the water, or this one. So as the boat gets damaged, the number of attack possibilities increases. And in this case, the boat section was destroyed completely. Everyone falls in the water. Hooper fell in the water because that section was damaged anyway. The shark rolls to take a bite of Hooper. 1 damage on Hooper. And then we go to the next round. So you clear this. You turn up 3 new cards. You relocate A, B, C, whoop, and the shark goes under the water again to choose a new location for where it's going to show up. To climb out of the water back into the boat takes both of a crew member's actions. So, if Hooper were going to climb out of the water here, he cannot use the hammer at all because the shark is not adjacent to either of these water spaces. He could stay in the water and swim over 2 spaces, but then the shark can attack him directly should the shark show up at A. Now, the shark player is going to choose their location before Hooper moves, so humans have to be quiet at this point. Hooper alternatively can use the rifle. So it's got an option there, and they can target anywhere you want with the rifle. These 2 guys probably want to get out of the water so they don't get bit. But as the game progresses and things start disappearing, well, then you'll have fewer and fewer choices, and you might end up in the water whether you want to or not. Act 2 of Jaws is another hidden movement game, and it's kind of interesting to pair the 2 of those into one game. So it has the same type of gameplay, but it changes over the course of the 2 acts with players having different incentives for what they're trying to do. In the first half of the game, the shark player can't just meander all around and do nothing because the human players are going to get lucky, or through skill, they're going to be able to use the fish finder and use the binoculars and be able to get a barrel or 2 into it. And that will be that, because the fish finder covers 4 or 5 spaces each time it's used, so it covers a lot of ground. And of course, if the shark does eat a swimmer, then you have some additional information as to where the shark might be. And over the course of the game, you sort of build up that information and corner the shark, so to speak, in order to put those barrels into it. So you can play Act 1 on its own, and if you do that, the shark wins if it eats 7 swimmers. That's it. If you get 2 barrels into it first, then the humans win. So it's a different feel because it's just all or nothing with that sort of goal. If you play Act 2 on its own, you act as if the shark ate 5 swimmers, with the shark getting 6 abilities, the crew getting 7 pieces of gear, and you just start there. So the humans start with particular pieces of gear, and then you take the gear that's dealt to you at random and you assign them to those players. So everyone starts with particular pieces of equipment, and if they die over the course of Act 2, then all that equipment goes away. It's a little weird in that the pistols are all single shot, the rifle is single shot, I think the harpoon gun, single shot, and that's it. So you think you'd have more ammo in there. Some of the crew gear is going to be ammo, and if you fire a pistol and you have ammo, you can throw away the ammo card, but you usually don't get many of the ammo cards, and so you fire the pistol, and then, whoop, okay, that's it. It's to the baseball bat with me. That's all I have available. And each piece of gear has its own little special thing. So the baseball bat, if you miss, then you get to roll the dice again. And the hammer, you get to have the evade be nothing. And the machete is going to roll 2 dice and always add 1 hit to it. It's a machete. I guess you're slinging around at random, so you're going to do some kind of damage. So you have the 2 acts over the course of the game, and it provides a more complete cinematic experience. But what's funny is the results of Act 1 often don't play into what happens in Act 2. So I've played the game 4 times with 2, 3, and 4 players. Fran has also played the game with other people, and in that game, the shark ate 9 swimmers quickly. There's just no stopping it. They didn't find it. Nothing happened. The shark had all the abilities possible. The crew had practically no gear, and yet the crew won relatively quickly through good guesses as to where the shark would show up, good use of the gear, good rolls of the dice. Shark was dead. Done. And then we had other games where we shot barrels into the shark relatively quickly, but then the shark was more measured in its actions. And Act 2 is kind of the more interesting part of the game because you have more choices as to what you're going to do, whether you're the shark or the humans, for what you might be targeting where and when, with which pieces of gear, and whether you're going to gear up together, pair up together or not. And it's been a fully satisfying experience with both sides of play, because in the games I've played, typically things have ridden right to the wire as to whether the crew or the shark was going to win. We had one game where the shark seemed to start out like gangbusters, just destroying the ship left and right. We're doing nothing to it. And then we got a flare in it, and the flare at the end of each round, you're going to roll a die, and the flare does that much damage to the shark. So, of course, the shark is trying to find one of those fish hooks on the resurface options to shake it off. But if you know the shark is going to go there, well, then you target that space. If the shark doesn't go there, well, it's going to damage something else, but the flare will keep doing damage. Maybe the shark misses those opportunities to get rid of it, and over time we've seen the flare do 6 to 8 points of damage just because it happens turn after turn after turn. And that adds up when the shark has only 18 life points. So in that one game, the shark seemed to be doing great, and then the humans made a nice comeback, got the shark to 16 points of damage, and if a die roll had gone our way, then we would have won. But it did not, and we all died. So that's what happens. That's what's happened in the other games too. We had this close finish as to what's going to happen. Because again, the shark wins if it destroys the boat or the humans. We've had a couple of games where both the humans die, or two of the humans die, and then you're looking at the last one on these like two pieces of the boat and trying to make a sharp guess as to what's going to happen. But of course, the shark has all these ability cards that let it do things that you wouldn't think it would normally do. So there's ones where if it hits the boat, as I showed you, then all the players fall in the water, which makes them easier to target because the shark can just choose to bite anyone in its space or adjacent space. Or the shark has a ramming action where it can surface in a particular spot and then go to an adjacent spot, and it adds 2 to whatever its die roll is. It builds up speed and hits the side of the boat, causing more damage, throwing people into the water, havoc all over the place. There's different ones where the evade value is 3, or different things happen. You know, different shark abilities. It's not a super smart shark, but it's smart enough, right? Its instincts are there, honed, ready to go after the humans. And of course, the humans have to think what the shark is going to do. And it's interesting. The weird thing about it, of course, is as you're playing the game, the shark player hears everything you're doing, which is not what would normally happen with a shark. And it's just funny to think of the shark spying on you. It's kind of bug. It's finding out, planning what you're going to do on the boat, and then carrying on from there. It's an interesting little way to think of the shark, but it's much more satisfying than if you had a shark AI. You were playing against a shark deck that would just attack in random ways. Here you get the satisfaction of outwitting someone if you're the human player, or if you're the shark player, you get the satisfaction of being a smart shark and hopefully killing lots of people and winning. That's right. Blood in the water is your victory parade. So it's a nice representation of Jaws. So I played with multiple fans who cannot stop saying the things that you will probably be commenting on this video or this post. It's a bit much, I will say. I get it. The boat is actually perfectly sized, exactly what you need. That's it, for a satisfying game experience. Just the right size. Yes, no bigger is needed. That's it. And it's nicely designed. The only issues we've had as we played, and it's happened in all 4 games, is it takes quite a while to work out what the adjacency is on the second half of the game, in Act 2. So in Act 1, it's fairly easy. Don't go over diagonals. It's easy to say. But Act 2 has the boat, and those adjacency areas keep changing over the course of the game. And so you have to track that, and you have to remind people. I have to remind people because I'm the one teaching new people all the time. So I give a demonstration round as to what happens, and then we actually start playing, and I have to keep reminding them. So if the shark comes up here, these 2 pieces of boat are adjacent because this one is damaged. If you go here, you can target these spaces in the water. If you go here, and you get these choices that seem like they should be simple, and yet it takes the entire game to become comfortable with what is adjacent and what's not. And just to remember, the shark can attack adjacent boats, but that changes based on whether the boat piece is damaged or not, and then whether it's not there. Because over the course of the game as well, the shark's options change, and it's really interesting to see, like, if two resurface options come up for the same spot, which can happen because each location appears twice in the deck. Well, now there's two spots here, and the shark will choose the one with the higher evade value or the one with more dice. Up to the shark. Smart, wily shark that it is. Or it'll go off to this third spot. And as the boat disintegrates, some of those resurface options are just in the water, and there's nothing around it, and there's no reason to go there. So the shark's choices drop, assuming it wants to just hit the boat every single time. But of course, it could take a turn off and just wait for better choices, and then nothing happens. It's like a null turn. Shark chooses something, the humans go somewhere, no one attacks anyone else, just more resurface options, and you do it again. And you sort of have a little like treading water moment there, where you're just waiting for something to happen. I suppose you could think of it as tension in the movie. It is, where you're just waiting for something to happen. But in the game, it's a little like, okay, that was nothing, and then we move on. But of course, you don't know it's nothing. It depends on what you're going to do and what the shark player is going to do. All about the choices you make. All about whether you want to start attacking people or not. And of course you do, because you're a shark and you want to eat people. Have fun.